Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. We have to start this podcast on what occurred last night. Bills safety Damar Hamlin, after he tackled T. Higgins during the Bengals game, gets up and then collapses on the field. And it was a very scary scene. The stadium was silent. All the players on both sides were in shock and were rightfully praying for him. And there are some players in tears. There were a lot of fans in tears at the game. And about a half an hour later, Hamlin was taken to a local hospital. It was the University of Cincinnati Hospital. And he got CPR done on the field as he suffered a cardiac arrest. He is in critical condition. All you got to do is pray at this point. It was just a terrible scene. It was a sad scene. Damar is a really good person. He has a toy drive going on GoFundMe, which raised millions of dollars. And this is one of the saddest NFL moments I can remember in my lifetime. The Bills had a big statement how he suffered the cardiac arrest following the hit in their game against the Bengals. His heartbeat was restored on the field and was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment, and is currently sedated and listed in critical condition. So we just got to pray for Hamlin and hope for the best. There's a lot of ramifications that need to be figured out, and I have no idea when they are going to make up this game, if they will at all. The Bengals had a 7-3 lead in the first quarter when this unfortunate event took place. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like I said, I have no idea what they're going to do. The schedule for Week 18 is out, and the Bengals-Ravens game that's scheduled for this Sunday, the time of that game is going to be determined on the result of this game. And this was a game that everybody was looking forward to. But it's just unfortunate and very, very sad that this unfortunately happened to Damar Hamlin. And the league obviously did the right thing in calling the game. They should have called it much sooner than they did. I think the league did a poor job handling the situation and should have called the game earlier. the 5 minutes warm up on the field was inexplicable and should not have happened. And that is just something that really had me irate. Meanwhile, I think Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, Adam Schefter, Booger McFarland, Susie Klober on the broadcast all did a terrific job considering the tough circumstances. I think Scott Van Pelt was amazing for the time he had with Ryan Clark. Both of those guys deserve a lot of props in a tough situation. But there are some people saying that that they should have just, that ABC and ESPN should have just stuck to different programming, but they had no choice. They really didn't have a choice because ABC, the news started at 11 Eastern, so they just stuck to the Scott Van Pelt feed. And as I mentioned, I think Scott did an outstanding job with Ryan Clark in their segment together. And eventually, ABC went to their own news programming at 11, and ESPN continued coverage with Van Pelt and Ryan Clark. And then eventually, they went to other sports highlights as the Midnight Sports Center went on after Van Pelt was done. So, just an awful situation. And as I said at the top, hopefully Hamlin will be okay. And then at 11 o'clock, Hamlin's rep said on Twitter that the vitals are back to normal and he is undergoing further testing at the hospital, which I thought was a good sign. But he is still in critical condition. And, of course, all the athletes on social media are rightfully sending out their thoughts and prayers to Hamlin, his family, his friends, and the Bills organization. And this is bigger than the game. And all we hope is for Hamlin to be okay. So, we'll talk about other news and notes now. I had to start the show with Damar Hamlin, obviously. So, other news and notes, Bryce Young declares for the draft as the 2021 Heisman winner officially declares for the draft. He wanted to play in that bowl game. Him and Will Anderson, I give them credit for it. And they went out and looked like Alabama. Seahawks starting linebacker Jordan Brooks will miss the rest of the season after tearing his ACL. That's not good news. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel says Tua Tagovailoa will not be a part of team's plans against the Jets. That's not good. That is not good. Skylar Thompson against the Jets is bad news. And the Jets are playing for Robert Saleh's job. I mean, I think his fate is probably determined at this point, regardless of the outcome of this game. But I think if that game against Seattle proved anything, it's that Mike White's not the answer. He's a backup quarterback for a reason. You could say the same thing with the Eagles and Gardner Minshew as well, although I do think Minshew is better than Mike White. So, I do think the Jets can go out there and win in Miami to spoil their playoff hopes. So, it's going to be interesting to see if they do indeed go, it's Skylar Thompson with their season on the line, who I think is just not a good football player. Jordan Poyer has a torn meniscus, as he said he's played through the season and will continue to do so. That's crazy. Christian McCaffrey's day-to-day, and Aaron Banks is out on Sunday. Hopeful return for the first playoff game. So the 49ers, I think, if I'm the McCaffrey, I sit this one out. I know you're playing for the 2 seed still and want to avoid the Giants in round 1, want to avoid Dallas. But then again, you don't want to see Aaron Rodgers in round 1 either, right? Assuming it is Green Bay. So I think McCaffrey's going to play on Sunday. I really do. So now if Green Bay gets in, all the wild card teams are dangerous. Obviously Dallas with their offense. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are getting hot at the right time. And the Giants are super well coached. You know that they are not going to lay down in a playoff game under Daboll. So the Week 18 kickoffs, we alluded to it when talking about the Hamlin situation, only because the Bengals-Ravens game next week was up in the air in terms of what time that game is going to start. So the 2 Saturday games we discussed yesterday, Kansas City, Vegas at 4:30 on ESPN and ABC, and Tennessee, Jacksonville at 8:15 on ESPN and ABC. I expect to see Buck and Aikman on Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Steve Levy, Louis Riddick on the Kansas City, Vegas game. So the old Monday night group, and then obviously the new Monday night group. Oh, and then Booger McFarland, obviously, for KC Vegas probably too. All right, so the 1 o'clock games for Sunday the 8th. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. I almost said Tampa Bay, New England, because I guess I had Brady in my mind, or New England's next on the list, is they play at Buffalo against the Bills. That's the other game that I think could be impacted or changed due to the situation from last night. Jets, Dolphins, Panthers, Saints, and Browns, Steelers. The TBD is Baltimore, Cincinnati, and depending on who won that game was either going to be at 1 or at 4:25. So Adam Schefter said before the game, the Week 18 Baltimore-Cincinnati game will be played on Sunday at either 1 p.m. or 4:25 p.m., depending on the result of the Bills-Bengals game. But that was before the that unfortunate situation, though. If Buffalo wins, the game will be played at 4:25 Eastern. If Cincinnati wins, it will be played at 1. Because that would obviously be for seeding. That would make sense. So if Cincinnati won, it would have been a 1 o'clock game. And if the Bills won, then 4:25. So the 4:25 games, Chargers, Broncos, Giants, Eagles, Cardinals, 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, Cowboys, Commanders, and then Sunday Night Football, Lions, Packers, potential win-in situation for both teams. We know it is for Green Bay, potentially for Detroit if the Rams beat Seattle. Broadcaster guesses. That's obviously up in the air right now until we know what the deal is with the Bills-Bengals game. But if, in theory, Cincinnati won, that would have been a 1 o'clock game. But if the Bills had won, this would have been a 4:25 game between Baltimore and Cincinnati. If Baltimore-Cincinnati was played at 4:25, my guess for the broadcasters would have been Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. If that was a 1 o'clock game, then I would guess Ian Eagle and Charles Davis, and that Nantz and Romo would amazingly get the Giants-Eagles game. Good for the Giants getting Nantz and Romo potentially. They haven't gotten them all year. They had Buck and Aikman on Monday Night Football earlier in the year. They had Burkhardt and Olsen on Thanksgiving against Dallas. They're on Sunday Night Football against Washington. That was their biggest win all season. And they did not end up on Amazon Prime this year. So they're going to potentially get Nantz and Romo for the first time this year. Burkhardt and Olsen will probably be in D.C., which I think is they rigged that on purpose so the Cowboys would get favoritism from Fox, even though it's not Buck and Aikman anymore. Because I don't see a world where they're at any other game unless if Giants-Eagles was on Fox. But let's be honest, Nantz and Romo are much better than Burkhardt and Olsen for big games. Burkhardt and Olsen are on the rise for sure, but Nantz and Romo, I think, have established themselves as the broadcast team you want to hear on Sundays during the day. Now that Buck and Aikman are no longer on Fox. You want those CBS guys now. And obviously you'll have Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark on Lions Green Bay. And then Ian Eagle and Charles Davis, if Baltimore Cincinnati's Nantz and Romo, they'll be at Giants Eagles. Joe Davis's group will probably be Jets Miami. But Burkhardt and Olsen, I would not rule them out for Jets Miami. Would not rule that out. I'm surprised that game's on Fox and Giants-Eagles is CBS. But if Giants-Eagles was on Fox, it would have been a no-brainer that they were going to get Burkhardt and Olsen. And Jets-Miami, I think, would have had Ian Eagle calling that game or Nantz and Romo. But the Jets, I feel like Ian Eagles had them every week, in a way. So, it's going to be interesting to see, if there's any changes to this after we find out when or if that Bengals-Bills game is going to be made up. Art McNally passes away due to natural causes at the age of 97, who was the first on-the-field referee to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Really sad news yesterday evening. Harbaugh NFL rumors are back as sources tell The Athletic that Jim Harbaugh would leave Michigan if he gets an NFL coaching offer. We see this every year. I think he's staying in Michigan. I really do. I don't see him leaving. Are the Raiders going to fire Josh McDaniels after one season? Are the Broncos going to go after Jim Harbaugh? That would be laughable if the Broncos got Jim Harbaugh or the Colts. Oh my God. But it's better than Nathaniel Hackett or Jeff Saturday. Josh Gordon, remember him? He was drafted to the XFL by the Seattle Sea Dragons after being cut by the Titans earlier in the year. The Winter Classic was yesterday as Tristan Jarry sustained an injury in the first period of the Winter Classic and was replaced by Casey DeSmith. A great moment in the World in the Winter Classes. I almost said World Cup, I saw WC. As Boston fans were singing to Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline, and that's an appropriate song because obviously there are probably Penguin fans in Fenway too, and they obviously sing that song for the Pitt Panthers because you would think Penguin fans are Pitt Panther fans because they're both Pittsburgh. So that song has both Boston and Pittsburgh ties to it. So I'm not surprised that they played that. And how about this? Seattle lands the 2024 Winter Classic at T-Mobile Park against the Vegas Golden Knights. So that is awesome that the two recent expansion teams get the Winter Classic next season. So that's it for news and notes, and now we'll do college football bowls. We will recap the bowl games and look ahead to... actually, no, we won't look at any bowls because we only have the national title game left. Number 22, Mississippi State over Illinois, 19-10 in the Relia Quest Bowl. Number 16, Tulane comes back from 15 down. The knockoff, number 10, USC, 46-45 in the Cotton Bowl. That was a crazy comeback. Citrus Bowl, number 17, LSU destroys Purdue, 63-7. And the Rose Bowl, number 11, Penn State over number 8, Utah, 35-21 in the Rose Bowl. So, we have TCU, Georgia on Monday the 9th, and we'll obviously preview and pick that on Monday's podcast next week. Okay, now we'll move on to college basketball. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's games. Niagara over Rider, 61-59. Holy Cross over Navy, 74-63. BU over Bucknell, 69-61. Colgate over Lehigh, 76-60. American over Loyola, Maryland, 71-55. Wright State over IUPUI, 82-68. Mount St. Mary's over Kenesha, 64-60. Jackson State over Alcorn State, 67-66. Alabama State over Miss Valley State, 70-61. Kennesaw State over Eastern Kentucky, 79-75. Rutgers over number 1 Purdue, 65-64. Oklahoma State over West Virginia, 67-60. Maryland Eastern over St. Mary's, Maryland, 87-56. Army over Lafayette, 82-65. Penn over Brown, 76-68. Jacksonville over Jacksonville State, 62-46. Liberty over Lipscomb, 77-48. Bellarmine over North Alabama, 69-65. Bethune over Florida A&M, 67-59. Stetson over North Florida, 68-62. Alabama and Novum over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 66-59. Southern over Texas Southern, 77-76 in overtime. Prairie View over Grambling, 61-60. And Florida Gulf Coast over Central Arkansas, 84-79 in overtime. All right, 6:30 Fox Sports 1, Marquette St. John's. From Karaseka Arena. My projection, St. John's by 2.5, total 150 and 7/20, and it is Marquette by 1.5, total 157.5. I like the under a lot. That's high. ESPN 2 at 7 o'clock, Mississippi State at number 8, Tennessee. My line's Tennessee by 9.5, total 124 and 17/20, and it is 8.5 and 123.5. Slight over. Tacoma Falls, NC Central, we could skip. Notre Dame, Boston College on the ACC Network. My line's Notre Dame by 6 3/4, total 135 and 7/20, and it is 2.5 and 130.5. I like the over. ESPNU, Syracuse, Louisville. My line's Syracuse by 11, total 140 and 3/10, and it's 9.5 and 137.5. Over. Nebraska, Michigan State on the Big Ten Network. My line's Michigan State by 11 3/4, total 135 and the 10th, and it's 6.5 and 132.5. Love Michigan State. South Carolina and Vanderbilt on the SEC Network. My line is Vandy by 3 3/4, total 134 and 4/5, and it's 10.5 and 129.5. I like South Carolina getting the points. That's a lot of points. Bowling Green and Eastern Michigan. My line is Eastern Michigan by 2, total 151 and 3/5. And it's 2.5 and 156.5. Under. Ball State, Toledo. CBS Sports Network. My line's Toledo by 6, total 151 and 3/10. And it is 8.5 and 156.5. Under. Western Michigan and Kent State. My line is Kent by 15, total 135 1/4, and it is 17.5 and 135.5. I'm going to take Western getting the points. Ohio Buffalo. I project the Pick'em in 150 and 920. Its ended is Ohio 1.5, total 156.5. Under. Northern Illinois and Akron. My line is Akron by 16, total 137.25, and it is 14.5 and 133.5. Over. Miami of Ohio and Central Michigan. Miami, Ohio, I project as a 1-point underdog, total 147 and 7/20. And it's 2.5 and 146.5. Slightly into Miami of Ohio. ESPN, LSU, Kentucky. My line is Kentucky by 5.5, total 140 and 3/10, and it is 9.5 and 137.5. Woo! LSU's the pick. I'm excited to bet against Kentucky. Or the pick against Kentucky. Fox Sports 1 and 8:30. Seton Hall, Creighton. My line's Creighton by 8 3/4, total 139 and 3/20. And it is 8.5 and 137.5. Slight over. Number 3, Kansas at Texas Tech on ESPN2. My line is Kansas by 3 1/4, total 142 and 7/10, and it is 2.5 and 139.5. Over. Kansas State at number 6, Texas on the Longhorn Network. My line is Texas by 8 1/4, total 141.5, and it is 8.5 and 136.5. Over. Ole Miss at number 7, Alabama on the SEC Network. My line is Bama by 9, total 143 and 4/5. And it is 11.5 and 148.5 under. Number 11, Virginia at Pitt on the ACC Network. My line is Virginia by 5.5, total 136 and 1/10. And it's 6.5 and 128.5 over. Minnesota at number 14, Wisconsin on the Big Ten Network. My line is Wisconsin by 10.5, total 130 and 1/5. And it's 12.5 and 124.5 over. Utah State Air Force on CBS Sports Network. My line is Utah State by 5 3/4, total 142 and 1/4. And it's 7.5 and 135.5 over. San Jose State and Boise State. My line is Boise by 13 3/4, total 131 and 2/5, and it is 9.5 and 128.5 over. Would be fun, but I gotta lay 9.5 with Boise. And last but not least, 11 o'clock, CBS Sports Network, undefeated number 21, New Mexico at Fresno State. My line is New Mexico by 12.5, total 136 3/4, and it's 4.5 and 138.5. I'm going to lay it with New Mexico on the road at Fresno State. All right, now move on to the NBA. We will recap yesterday's games and look ahead to a much smaller window for tonight. Knicks over the Suns, 102-83. Lakers over the Hornets, 121-115. Cavs over the Bulls, 145-134 in overtime as best bet wins. Pacers over the Raptors, 122-114. Sixers over the Pelicans, 120-111. Nets over the Spurs, 139-103. Mavs over the Rockets, 111-106. Timberwolves over the Nuggets, 124-111. Warriors over the Hawks, 143-141 in double overtime. Blazers over the Pistons, 135-106. And Heat over the Clippers, 110-100. All right, 8 o'clock on NBA TV, Wizards Bucks. My line is Bucks by 9.5, total 223 and 4/5. And we got 8 and 228.5 under. No Middleton and potentially no Giannis. Celtics Thunder. My line is Celtics by 9.5, total 231.5, and it's 9 and 233. Slight under. And Kings Jazz at 9. My line is Kings by 3 1/4, total 234 and 3/10, and it's Jazz by 3, total 243. Another under is the pick. All right, now move on to the NHL. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's slate. Bruins over the Penguins 2-1 in the Winter Classic. Golden Knights over the Avs 3-2, and the Flyers over the Ducks 4-1. All right, big slate tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Coyotes at the Panthers. Panthers minus 345, Coyotes plus 265, over under 6.5, overs minus 105, unders minus 115. Coyotes plus 1.5 is plus 110, Panthers minus 1.5 is minus 134. Coyotes puck lines to pick. Hurricanes, Rangers. That's probably game of the night. The Canes are minus 134 favorites. Rangers are plus 112. Over under 5.5. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. Canes minus 1.5 is plus 194. Rangers plus 1.5 is minus 245. I think the Rangers are going to win tonight. I'm going to take them plus 112. Home dog. Playoff rematch. I know revenge is kind of on Carolina's mind. But revenge only matters in the postseason, not in the regular season. Give me the Rangers plus 112 to win at home to get within 8 of Carolina for first. Blue Jackets, Sens. Sens minus 225, Jackets plus 180, over under 6.5, over is minus 104, under is minus 118. Columbus plus 1.5 is minus 142, Sens minus 1.5 is plus 116. Good God, this is an awful game. I'm going to go with the tie at plus 350. I really think this is an overtime game. Blues, Maple Leafs. Leafs minus 285, Blues plus 230, over under 6, over is minus 114, under is minus 106, Blues plus 1.5 is minus 118, Leafs minus 1.5 is minus 104. I'm going with the Blues puck line plus 1.5 at minus 118. Sabres, Capitals. Caps minus 160, Sabres plus 132, over under 6.5, over is minus 104, under is minus 118. Sabres plus 1.5 is minus 194, Caps minus 1.5 is plus 154. I kind of like Buffalo. Plus 132 to knock off the Caps. I like how they're playing. 8 o'clock, Canadiens, Preds. Preds minus 240, Canadiens plus 195, over under 6. Over is minus 114, under is minus 106. Habs plus 1.5 is minus 128. Preds minus 1.5 is plus 104. I like the under in this game. Flames, Jets. Flames minus 130, Jets plus 108, over under 5.5. Over is minus 124, under is plus 102. Flames minus 1.5 is plus 198. Jets plus 1.5 is minus 250. Why are the Jets home underdogs? I know the Flames are playing better, but why are they underdogs? Give me the Jets plus 108. 8:30, Lightning, Blackhawks from Chicago. Lightning minus 345, Blackhawks plus 270, over under 6.5, over is minus 110, under is minus 112. Lightning minus 1.5 is minus 142, Blackhawks plus 1.5 is plus 116. I'm going with the over. Kraken, Oilers. Oilers minus 152, Kraken plus 126, over under 6.5, over is minus 114, under is minus 108. Kraken plus 1.5 is minus 196, Oilers minus 1.5 is plus 156. Another underdog, I'm going Seattle plus 126. 10 o'clock on ESPN, you have the Stars and the Kings. Stars minus 122, Kings plus 102, over under 6, over is minus 120, under is minus 102. Stars minus 1.5 is plus 198, Kings plus 1.5 is minus 250. I'm going to go with Los Angeles Kings. I don't think I've ever done this, but I'm going to take the underdog to win in regulation. Kings in regulation plus 158. And last but not least, you have the Islanders and the Canucks. Isles minus 113, Canucks minus 106, over under 6, over is minus 118, under is minus 104. Isles minus 1.5 is plus 228, Canucks plus 1.5 is minus 280. I'm going to go with the Islanders as a slight road favorite at minus 113, although that could be the Vegas Nose game. Now we'll recap the notable soccer games from yesterday and look ahead to today's soccer. English Premier League, Brentford over Liverpool 3-1. So 4 games today. Arsenal and Newcastle. That's going to be a fun game, I'd say. Arsenal's minus 130, Newcastle plus 360, draw plus 280. I'm going to go with the draw plus 280. I actually think that's going to be a competitive game. Everton and Brighton. Brighton plus 105, Everton plus 260, draw plus 250. I'm going Brighton plus 105. Leicester and Fulham. Leicester plus 145, Fulham plus 190, draw plus 240. I'm going to go with Leicester plus 145. And at 3 o'clock, you have Manchester United and Bournemouth. Man United minus 450, Bournemouth 11-1 dog, and the draw is 5-1. I'm going to go with over 3.5 goals at plus 132. All right, next will be Copa del Rey, round of 32, which is going to be from today until Thursday. So 1 o'clock, you have Lanusia and Valencia. Which is going to be an interesting game. Valencia's minus 410. London Lucia's plus 750. Draw plus 360. I'm going to go under 2.5 goals at minus 104 as a bold pick. FC Cartagena and Villarreal. Villarreal minus 220. FC Cartagena 550. Draw 3-1. We're going to go over 2.5 goals at minus 116. Espanyol and Celta Vigo. Espanyol's plus 165. Celta Vigo's plus 170. Draw plus 190. I'm going to go with the draw plus 190. 3 o'clock, Ceuta and Elk. Elk minus 135. Ceuta FC plus 340. Draw plus 240. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals minus 110. Levante and Getafe. Levante plus 125. Getafe plus 210. Draw plus 210. Go with Getafe plus 125. Sporting and Rayo. Rayo plus 115, Sporting plus 230, draw 2-1. We'll go with the Rayo plus 115. And the big one, Casareno and Real Madrid. Real Madrid's minus 1,100. Casareno 17-1, draw plus 750. We're going to go over 3.5 goals at minus 128. All right, that's it for notable soccer today. And now my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I have some options today. There's a couple in college hoops I really liked, and there's a couple in the NBA and even the NHL that I liked as well. But the pick, this is tough because conference play's underway. I obviously want to be 2-0 in 2023 on best bets. Don't forget, I started 2022 10-0 in best bets. And I went a staggering 16-5 in January, which is crazy. I'm going to go with a big underdog, the cover in the SEC, and that is South Carolina plus 10.5. I'm going to lay a half unit on it, minus 118 against Vanderbilt. All right, so that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow, obviously with any updates regarding Damar Hamlin and all the sports results from today, and looking ahead to everything going on tomorrow as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.